Hi, my name is Ted Millich and I'm back to tell you more about the nature of sociocracy, also known as dynamic governance or DG. Today I'll tell you about the rules. Like in a game, you need to understand the rules, but just that alone won't be the same as experiencing the game itself. That's for future blog entries, or vlog entries. This will be a long entry, but it's the core of dynamic governance and not really very complex. It's not meant to train you. It's just to paint a picture so you can see what it mostly entails doing and why it's better and gives better results than current methods of running businesses and organizations. I use sociocracy, dynamic governance, and DG interchangeably. Sorry, I know it's confusing, but you'll get used to it. I call someone who promotes sociocracy or uses it a sociocrat. Also, instead of saying group, enterprise, entity, business, company, etc., I mostly just say organization. DG is difficult to explain because it is made up of some novel ideas. So novel, in fact, that now, 11 years after I first started using it, I still frequently picture authoritarian organizational ideas and structures and things when I'm envisioning things related to dynamic organizations, because that's what's ingrained in me. That's what we're all conditioned to understand. So first, a few terms. DG uses the term circle to be the group of people who make policy decisions together on an equivalent basis, like a department, team, or division. Rounds give everyone multiple chances to speak without anyone else responding or commenting until it's their turn to speak, which will happen many times. There's two elements to how a group governs itself. The first is a decision-making method, of which there can be more than one. And the second one is the structure, which is the roles and responsibilities that people take on in the organization, plus perhaps other values and guidelines. So, with sociocracy, there are four main rules. Sociocracy uses a decision-making method called consent decision-making. The truth of the matter is, though, that every decision we make could be called consent. For instance, with majority vote, we consent to have our opinion disregarded if we're in the minority. Frequently, when we take on a new job, we're consenting to have our boss make choices for us. DG's consent is for creating the rules or the policies that govern the operations, but not necessarily for operations. A group can decide, by consent, to operate using authoritarian structures for getting things done. For instance, a dynamic fishing company with 10 employees and one boat might set these rules. Catch only mackerel, fish only from 3 a.m. to noon, 3 days a week, and that the captain can order the other sailors on the boat around in an authoritarian manner. In fact, that might be the law, and you'll probably decide to follow all applicable laws. As long as everyone consents to it in a policy meeting, that's the method that people in the group will use for operations. Everyone in a circle, including the head, has the power to not consent to a proposed policy. Sociocrats like to say that this system is both and. There can be both egalitarian consent and other methods that work together. So, with consent, a policy is proposed and the circle looks for objection. In order to object, the objector needs a reason. The reason for the objection is then used to make amendments to the proposal so that there are no further objections. If there are any questions about an objection someone brings up, the circle consults the previously recorded and regularly updated vision and mission of the organization and the aims of the circle. I usually describe this power as the power to not consent. I like to say that DG supports all participants in having an equivalent amount of power reserved for them in the system through consent decision making. It's different than saying people are equal. Gerard Endenberg refers to this as equivalence. People sometimes don't believe that it's really possible for a group to come to unanimous decisions. But listen to Annemiek Reimer, the executive director of the Sociocracy Center in the Netherlands.
Most of the time people think long meetings and that you don't get consent. What happens if you don't get consent? Then you are stuck. Well, we have the solution that if a decision has to be made and the circle doesn't give consent, then it goes to the next higher circle. And there's the representative and the leader together with others in a bigger context. In my experience of 20 years, it has never happened. Because people want to talk a little bit longer than to let it be discussed upstairs. But the tension is necessary to bring people to creativity. And most of the time people has objections. You can show that the decision is improved.
Another rule is elections by consent, which is a way for a circle to make promotions and appointments. It's an adaptation of the consent process, and so is based on getting unanimous consent, and goes something like this. The job description is read. Each circle member then nominates someone and gives a reason for their choice, and you can nominate yourself. Then people can change their nominations, and when the facilitator feels like it's possible, they call for a consent round. When no one objects to a nominee, including that nominee, then the person is elected. This selection process is fun. It works well, no fraud is possible, and it frequently brings up valuable information. The third rule is called the circle process. Circles regularly review and update their stated purpose. In DG, they're called the vision, mission, and aims. The whole organization has a vision of a potential better future and a mission of how to get to that vision. Every circle has an aim or aims that are measurable products or services. Circles follow a process of making policy decisions, arranging for them to be carried out, and then, importantly, measuring the results before possibly making a new decision. So this circle process is frequently referred to as decide, do, measure, and repeat. One of the circles that DG uses is called the general circle. The general circle runs the organization and is populated by the executive director plus 2 members from each division or department below itself, of which there can be any number of levels. Above the general circle is the top circle, which contains the director, another member of the general circle, plus advisors, at least 2 of which should come from outside the organization. The last rule is double linking. Just the 3 previous rules weren't quite satisfactory for Gerard Hindenburg, the original developer of DG. He then instituted what is perhaps his most novel innovation, well, one of them. Any circle in his company was linked to the hierarchy above by the head of the lower circle, who meets in both. Hindenburg added a representative who also sits on both circles in both levels of hierarchy with their power to not consent. Having both a circle leader and circle representative is called double linking and ensures that power flows up as well as down. This is important because it keeps the hierarchy, which has advantages, but brings the group from the authoritarian realm to the realm of egalitarian cooperation. I've heard many people talk disparagingly of hierarchy, but that is not the problem. It's the authoritarian relationship that usually exists between levels of hierarchy that is the problem. So, to review, these 4 main elements of DG are usually described as the consent process, the circle process, double linking, and elections by consent. Other elements that Hindenburg believes are important for maintaining equivalence and creating a fully functioning dynamic system are total transparency, memory in the form of logbooks, connection to the outside world, and self-ownership, which I'll describe in a future vlog. So this is enough for now. I'll stop. My next vlog entry will show what it's like to play the game. That is, what it's like to actually use these rules of sociocracy. If you think this is important information, which it is, please pass it on to anyone you know who might be interested in creating a better world. So until the next vlog, happy trail.